up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's your girl JD here, back with another video. So today we're going to be diving into 90 Day Fiancé before the 90 days, and we're going to be going couple by couple as per usual. If you guys want to check out the video that I did right before this one, I'll link it in the corner here, and a little later down in the video I'll probably also link my 90 Day Fiancé the other way. This is the tell-all recap. I'll link that somewhere down the line. But without further ado, let's get right into it. So things are definitely heating up when it comes to Tigerlily and Adnan, and I think in my last video I did mention that they were going through this market in Turkey, and I guess, you know, Adnan was very strict about her not taking off her coat because she didn't really have anything on that he would approve of in terms of, you know, being around like men at the market. So he refused to let her take off her coat. They go on the boat and they kind of discuss that whole situation. Later on down the line, they go to the hotel's pool that they were staying at. Adnan made the sacrifice of, like, you know, putting on the shirt like she wanted him to, but she also wore a more conservative bathing suit where at least like her top part was covered but not her arms. So he was a little mad about that the arms weren't covered, and then also I think her calves or something like that. I think he wanted her to wear like the full suit, and she was just like, yeah, no, we're gonna have to compromise. It was very interesting. At least he compromised, and also, you know, she decided to follow, at least to some extent, some of his rules. But they end up getting into a little bit of a heated argument about that too, and you can see that Adnan again is disconnected but doesn't really know what to tell her. He's just like, yeah, this is how the rest of the marriage is going to be, so I don't know what to tell you, you know, like if you want to jump ship, basically, like, you're gonna have to do it now. Like, honestly, I'm really hoping that she had that prenup in place because, oh Lord, things are not looking good at all. But that's pretty much where they are right now. There wasn't really much to talk about when it came to these two, so I'm just gonna skip over Renee and Chitty because they're officially broken up. But yeah, there wasn't anything besides that really in terms of, you know, the actual show. There wasn't much to talk about. Nothing really happened after that. They just broke up and, you know, Renee left. Now Lauren and Faith, on the other hand, I don't even know where to begin. Like I mentioned in my other video, Lauren and Faith are now visiting Faith's family in the town that they live in. And Faith has officially told her sisters about what Lauren did in terms of the cheating and also catching the, you know, gonorrhea. The older sister, the trans sister, is just like, maybe you might want to reconsider things. Like, don't break up with him just yet, because it is really difficult for us to find people who would take us seriously and actually want to date us. I think you might want to, like, maybe give him another chance. But the thing is, it's just like, it's the respect factor. And even Faith was like, yeah, I don't know. So right before they leave Faith's town, they have a little lunch. They meet up for some food. And Lauren makes this suggestion that he should marry Faith's mother. You heard me correctly. Marry Faith's mother, because Faith is trans, and because of that she wouldn't be able to get married to Lauren or something like that because of the, you know, the laws in the Philippines. So he's just like, well, why don't I legally get married to your mother so that I could stay here, and it'll just be for the paperwork. It wouldn't be like an actual, like, real marriage in terms of like me being with your mom physically. But it doesn't make it any less weird that he explains it that way. It's just kind of like, Lauren, just shut up. Even Faith, in short, was like, what? But at the end of it all, somehow Lauren convinces her to make him or reinstate him to boyfriend status. And I'm just like, but why though? So now they're back to boyfriend and girlfriend, supposedly. Now that they've gone back to the city, they go to meet up with Faith's friends at this drag club. And that night gets really interesting really fast. So Faith, she gets on the stage, she starts doing her pole dancing thing, and Lauren's just sitting there. He's getting like slightly turned on because he's just like, oh my god, the way she moves her body is so feminine. I love it. But then she comes over, gives him a kiss. That's their very first kiss, I think, since Lauren got there, because things had went downhill from the moment that he landed. Let's be real. Then we had the issue of one of Faith's friends seeing him flirt with someone else, with another woman, and Faith comes over and just like, yeah, my friend said that you were flirting with somebody else. Like, what is that about? And Lauren's just like, I don't know what you're talking about. Faith just kind of shuts down. So the next day they decide to talk about it. Lauren tries to explain himself and it's not getting any better. The story still sounds crazy as hell. He said he walked over to this girl who was saying that she found him attractive or something. And he said he put his hand on her neck like this, but he was like, yeah, you're too young for me or something like that. And I was like, but what? First of all, there's so many things wrong with that, Lauren. The fact that you knew that she was too young, and also the fact that you're in a relationship with Faith. It's like, I don't understand how like Faith still at the end of it just was like, okay, whatever, I forgive you, and they walk away. Like, you know, like they're just in a good relationship, like a good, healthy relationship. And I'm just like, did we not just hear this man say that he put his hand on another girl that was too young? And it just, what? I'm kind of disgusted with Lauren for so many reasons, but like, the fact that Faith is just not letting go, it's making this whole thing a lot more irritating. But also she kind of gets emotional about him getting emotional because he was going to be leaving soon. And I'm just like, Faith, those are not tears. Like, there are no tears coming out of this man's eyes. Next we have Brian and Ingrid. So Brian is not making this easy for himself. He keeps saying things and letting things slip that he never said to Ingrid before. Ingrid went out with Brian to go meet up with one of his friends, and we find out this man has been married 3 times. She knew about the first and the second, I believe, but 3, sir? So of course, naturally, Ingrid is just like, what the heck is going on? Like, why does this keep happening? Why do I keep finding things out about you and uncovering things? Why didn't you say everything when we first met? Why, sir? So it is very sketchy. It's giving, I'm a sketchy person. And Brian, for some strange reason, is not picking up on that because she keeps saying, I need space. And he's just like, well, what does that mean? We're staying in 2 different places. I'm in my apartment and she's in the hotel room that I'm paying for. He has to keep mentioning that I'm paying for everything. And I'm just like, we know, Brian, we know. So he's just like, yeah, I need to figure out like what she's trying to do because I'm not feeling the love here. And also when we kiss, she kisses like she's my grandma. I'm just like, okay, because she don't feel comfortable with you because you're a liar. Anyways, so either way, they meet up because Ingrid texts him and was like, we need to talk about a couple of things. Ryan pretty much takes hold of the conversation and it's just like, yeah, I'm not feeling connected to you. Like, I feel like this relationship is just a waste of time. And he ends up saying, okay, which is so irritating whenever I hear it on this show. And you could see that these people are like actually trying in the relationship. The other partner would say some ish like, oh, I think you're using me for a visa to get to the United States. I think you're trying to get you and your kids over to the US. That's what Brian says to Ingrid. I think you're using me for a green card. It's really interesting that that's the conclusion that he came to, even though this man has been lying to her about so many things. This man is also still married. She did not know that. This man is still married to his 3rd wife because she, according to him, doesn't want to show up to sign the paperwork and actually make their divorce official. That's what he says. It's the audacity. So I just think that this relationship is just going nowhere and going nowhere fast. And I think this trip kind of helped him figure that out. It's not going anywhere because you are a crappy person, Brian. Like, it's not because of your wheelchair, which he keeps asking if it's about. It's not because of your wheelchair. It's because you're a crappy person that just so happens to be in a wheelchair. So let's move on to Via and Sunny. So after the whole blow up, when Via decided she did not want to tell Rory to leave, Sunny is just like, I can't deal with this anymore. Like, honestly, just go home. And she's just like, you know what? Okay, I'm just gonna tell him to leave. Eventually, you know, he could just head out, book a flight, and I choose you. I choose to stay so we could work on our relationship. And Sunny, he automatically gets happy and he's just like, okay, that could work. And now, you know, they're getting to a reasonable place. But at the same time, things are still hella awkward between Sunny and Rory. So they go on this safari and they finally have this chat. It was kind of weird because Sunny, anyway, he made it seem like the apology to Rory was like really heartfelt and like genuine. But then he told Via when she comes back to the safari car, he's just like, you know, hey, we worked everything out. We're good now. We're cool. Are you happy? And I'm just like, why would you ask her that? Like in front of Rory? It was kind of weird. So she's just like, yeah, I'm happy that you guys like worked everything out. But it was just kind of weird because it made it seem like he was really just doing it because he wanted to make her happy and not because he was really trying to apologize for being a kind of crappy person to Rory. They go to see the rest of the animals, and that's when they stop for a little while to have a chat about her possibly meeting Sunny's dad. He promises her that he would take her to go meet him, but he says that she's gonna have to cover her tattoos. And Rory's just like, yeah, I think that is a okay compromise. But Via takes it to a whole other level. It's just like, what if I tell you that you have to cover your tattoos? What if I tell you that you have to change yourself or something like that? I was like, it's really not that deep. But at the same time, it's like, if you want to date this man and you want to meet this man's family and you want their approval, you know there's certain things that you're probably going to have to do, or you're going to have to leave this relationship. So what is it? What is it going to be? It's just really interesting. Even Rory is just picking up on like, you know, you have those two decisions. So what is the plan here? Like, are you going to stay with him and make the compromise and try to convert to Islam, or like what are we doing here? Like, are you gonna break up? You don't have that many options. I'm curious to see how that meeting is gonna go with Sunny's dad. Let's move on to Niles and Matilda. So lordy, where do I start? Now Niles has changed his mind on basically just doing the knocking ceremony and coming back to do the marriage, because Mr. Ark, the stand-in father I should say, says to Niles like, hey, I am not going to be the stand-in father if you're not going to be doing both the knocking ceremony and the marriage while you're here. What you gonna do? That's when shortly after they get into a whole argument about like the money and what's gonna be spent on the knocking ceremony, and things get very heated because now he is hearing from Mr. Ark that it didn't have to be as expensive as Matilda wants it to be or as extravagant, and I guess it's making it look as though Matilda is a liar, right? Like she's using him for money, and that's how it's coming across. So she's clearly very angry, but they get to the hotel, they make amends, and then shortly after that, Niles decides, you know, I want to get married instead, and we're just going to do it while I'm here. They go back with Mr. Ark to talk to Matilda's family about the bride price, and they negotiate and they come back with a price. But now it seems as though Niles can't even afford that price. He can't afford the wedding. And also we find out that it's because he actually lost his job. I'm just like, okay, so when were you going to tell her that? Matilda is just freaking out because it's just like, why didn't you say something beforehand? That would have been important information to have so that Mr. R could have negotiated a better price, you know, a lower price. So it's a very interesting situation that they're in. They barely have money even for like Matilda's dress. I was like, oh Lord, this is not going well. But now Niles is calling his parents, hoping to get them on board and possibly even maybe ask them for money. He's saying to them that he's getting married, but they're not really happy for him because it's like, well, no. So he hangs up, he's angry, and now he has to ask Mr. Ark for some money. Hopefully Mr. Ark could help him pay for the rest of the wedding and the bride price, because he just forgot the whole reason as to why he needed to postpone having the wedding in the first place, which is because he lost his job. So he just let his emotions again kind of take hold, kind of like when he asked Matilda to marry him in the first place, and he didn't really have an actual plan to like move ahead and get married as soon as she wanted to. I don't think you really thought this through. I don't think you were really ready for marriage just yet. So it's another one of those situations. But let's move on to Vana and Bouro. So eventually Vana just realizes that Bouro is just wasting her time. He just wants to, you know, kill time until he could go back to his ex. Let's be real. They eventually meet up one more time, and he's just trying to apologize to her because he's like, I didn't really mean to hurt your feelings like that. I feel bad. But she's just like, well, what am I supposed to do with that? I came all the way here and you weren't really interested in me like that. You could have said something before I spent all this money coming over to Croatia. God dang it. They go their separate ways. And Vanya's cousin convinces her to stay there for the rest of her trip that she was originally going to be staying. And at a cafe, she actually runs into another man who's just like, you're really attractive. Like, could I sit here? We find out that he's in an open marriage, and Vanya's just like, yeah, I don't do that. So that is not my thing. I wish you the best though. And I'm just like, yikes. So she moves on from that situation and she matches with another guy, but he ends up not really being like a love connection. And then she meets this other guy who is, I guess in her words, she says, is built like a Greek god, and she's attracted to. And they go on this first date, they go kayaking, they're having a good time. There is something there, it seems, physically for both of them. Unlike Bouro, who wasn't giving her anything, didn't even hold hands, hug, nothing. So she's just getting everything that she wanted from Bouro from this new guy, I think it's Josko? I don't remember, but I think it began with a J. So they're very attracted, things are heating up. She invites him up to the apartment. They have some food and they're talking, and she finds out that he has an adopted son, and it's a very young child. She's obviously liking that side of him, but she's trying to figure out if she could envision herself being with a man with a child, or a really young child at that right now. But at the same time, I'm like, girl, if you end up having a really good connection with this man and he's everything that you wanted, I would make the sacrifice. You could be a stepmama. So lastly, we have Joe and Magda. So I'm honestly beginning to think that Magda might be the problem. Even though I do think that Joe is kind of so unserious, I really do think that Magda is a little too serious. Like, she's on the complete other end of the spectrum. They eventually go out on a few dates together and they're having a good time. They're learning more about each other and what their wants are. And also we get to see Joe take care of Magda. She had a little bit of a headache, so he, you know, brings out his like caring side. And also he meets up with Magda's friends because they had to give her her dog back. And Joe gets kind of put on the spot because one of the friends asks him like, would you be ready to propose to Magda? He's just like, yeah, I'm not too sure just yet. Like, it might be a little fast. And Magda looks at him like, wrong answer. And I'm just like, this girl is scary. Like, y'all have literally been together for a few months. I could see how you could say like, oh, this is my want out of the relationship after a couple of years, like maybe a year or two. I could see how you could then say like, after that time, I want marriage. But for you, after just a couple of months saying like you want him to propose, I'm like, first of all, this is the first time you guys are actually hanging together for a long period of time in person as an actual couple, and you want him to propose on that trip? It's a little too intense, okay? And we also find out from her friends that she actually, after 3 months of dating another guy in a previous relationship, that she decided to move to Germany with him. And she stayed in Germany for a year and a half with this man. After just 3 months of dating, it's looking rather strange. And even Joe picks up on it. It's just like, yeah, weird. They do eventually have another date where they go to like this salt cathedral or something like that. I don't know. They have this conversation about Joe's cheating situation, right? Even though that still hasn't really been fully clarified as to like what really happened. And it seems as though Joe doesn't want to say everything either. So that's a little sketchy for me on Joe's part. It's like, well, why wouldn't you just tell her everything? She's clearly giving you the opportunity to say everything. He's just like, I don't want to ruin what we have. You're gonna ruin what you have with her if you don't tell her everything right now. But anyways, he decides, you know what, I'm gonna hold back. I'm not gonna say too much. And then they have this little dinner at Magda's apartment. He cooks dinner. That's when he brings up the whole Germany situation, because he's just like, yeah, that's really fast to be going to a whole other country, like moving to a whole other country for another person. It's giving you make rash decisions and don't actually sit and think about things. It's giving low-key kind of crazy. But what gets me is that, you know, after he brings that up and he's just like, yeah, I think we're moving a little too fast. I think we should slow down a bit. She's just like, I think you're wasting my time. I'm just like, Magda, but it is crazy. Don't get me wrong. I've seen some couples get engaged in literally like a month or two. That works for some people, okay? Some. But for most couples, it's ideal for you to get to know each other first, like at least a year or two before you even have talks about proposals or engagements and moving to other countries. I just think that's fair. But y'all let me know what your thoughts are on this one. I'll catch you on the next video. Peace.